Everyone has something to share, and either wisdom, story, or logic. And it's clearly amazing to hear all the different missing links discovered by people, unique to their own journeys, and in how they have come to discover them. Together, we can help to build a bigger picture for a better future, for a brighter tomorrow. Let's stand united. Let's remove the veils, and let's create a new world together. Are you that missing link? Join Jesse Hale on the Missing Link Talk Show as he helps to unveil the mystery through the unique wisdom and store of others.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome everybody here back to the Missing Link. Oh, today can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, you can hear me. Today we're excited to talk to someone who's a ufologist who has a family that's had experience with the UFOs themselves. Leslie Singer, how are you doing today, brother?
Very well. Yourself?
Well, I just was on a long road trip, came here, computer's not working, now the sound's not working right. Just trying to figure all this stuff out. But today the Missing Link is about you. Why don't you start off with telling us about yourself, telling us about your journey, a little bit about your background, education, anything that you want to share with us today, especially if they're the audience, especially if they're hearing you here for the first time.
Sure. Yeah, I was born in Ferntree Gully, Melbourne in 1972. I lived in Baronia, grew up there, just normal kid, just every day, nothing strange, nothing out of the ordinary. My parents were more or less atheists, so they weren't very spiritual people, but they were very knowledgeable. My dad was a linguist. He spoke fluently 10 languages. He could learn the language fluently, read and write it in 2 years. That was what he's like. My mum's a psychologist, and obviously they wanted me to sort of follow in their sort of footsteps in academia, but I decided to pursue a different path, more into sort of like metal and stuff like that, sort of things that they didn't want me to pursue. But by the time I was 18, I was a big metalhead, and I got into got into death metal, black metal, joined death metal bands back in the day, and that's when I first encountered these strange beings around that time. It was a bizarre experience. But followed from other than that, I've worked in logistics, horticulture, studied horticulture for a while. I now work in logistics, and I do a lot of voluntary work in horticulture, especially animal rescue around the area. I do a little bit of bush regeneration, stuff like that as well. Other than that, that's really about it. That's pretty much my life. Just pretty ordinary. Nothing spectacular. Oh, so I can't hear you.
When is the first time that you had an experience with some type of entity or energy or alien, like your very first time that you've ever experienced something like that?
Well, the time that I realized that there was something strange and I knew, okay, something's going on, was back in 1991. I was living in my parents' garage as a death metal vocalist at the time, so I had all this band equipment there and all that sort of stuff. And one night I went to bed. It was just a mat on the floor, and then I heard something come into the room, and I felt this dread fall over me, and I couldn't move. And I'm like, what the hell? And it was like a dark room, so I couldn't see anything. And there was no windows. There was no windows to the garage because it's sort of semi-built under the house. And I heard all these little footsteps surrounding me, and then something pressed to the side of my head, like a pen. Felt like a pen pressing to the side of my head, and then all of a sudden, I was violently electrocuted. It was like from the point of contact, from that, what felt like a pen sticking in the side of my head, just this gush of electricity just flowed from my body, and I was violently freaking out, being electrocuted. And this sort of lasts for about, say, 10 seconds, and then I just blacked out. And then I woke up in the morning, something I don't. I usually sort of sleep sporadically through the night, but I woke up and it was morning. And it was odd, and I felt fine, nothing wrong. I did notice a little change, a tiny little change, which I'll get to later. I thought, what the hell was that? I was just thinking, shit, was that aliens? That was the only thing I could perceive, because I was a big sci-fi fan back then as well. I loved Red Dwarf, I loved Star Trek and all that, blah, blah. Watched all the episodes religiously. And so my brain sort of logically said, these are bloody aliens. What the hell? And but of course I didn't say anything to anyone. I just kept my mouth shut about it, because you just walk up to just walk up to your mates and say, just had an encounter with aliens, mate, And yeah, so that was basically the first time something weird happened.
And have you had other experiences then? Like, how many times have you seen them? You've kind of dug deep into them. I think I read in your bio that you said you've had family members that have had experience, or friends or family that's had experience with them.
Yeah, I've had since then I've had multiple experiences with these beings, some quite bizarre. But if I go back through family, back in the past, my step grandfather, who lives in Burt Street, or used to live in Burt Street, Northcote, Australia, in Victoria. And at the end of the street, there's a park. But when I was a kid, that was a landfill. It used to be a quarry. It was this tiny little street, and right at the end of the street, there was this huge hole. And apparently, back in the day, it was the second largest man-made hole in the Southern Hemisphere. And my step-grandfather was with one of my grandmother's sisters, and they witnessed a giant cigar-shaped UFO quietly descend into the quarry. And at the time, it wasn't being filled, and I think it was still being dug out at that time. And later on, and behind Burt Street, there's a graveyard. It's a very old graveyard, and which also is adjacent to the quarry. And my auntie, when she was like a child, she was playing there with one of my uncles, and he was even younger. And she saw a flying saucer, a disc, a metallic disc, just hovering in the cemetery, just hovering there, which was a bit of a shock. And there was also another my grandmother's ex-husband, his sister had claimed to have been taken in by aliens, and they repaired her heart. And that was the story that she had given. And a lot of these things I didn't initially believe, even though I had sort of strange encounters, because you can't sort of verify anything. So but later on, I sort of found out that the family friend who had her heart fixed, I believe now she was telling the truth. Oh, and there was another incident when I was in Scouts. I don't know, this is a strange incident. I was out camping somewhere, and there was these shower blocks. And walking along this dirt road past the shower box, and one of the scouts popped his head out around the corner and said, and he sort of pointed to the back, leading into the forest, and said, "There's aliens there." And I turned around and I laughed at him, and everyone seemed to not notice him or not hear him. And I just kept walking along. And later that day, his dad came and picked him up. And I remember asking him, going up to the car, he was in the car, and I said, "What's going on? Did you really see aliens?" And he said, I actually can't remember what he said, but I thought that was strange. And then later the next day, I went and looked where he claimed he saw aliens, and of course I didn't see anything. There was nothing there. So, but yeah, that was more the family history. And the only other thing I can really point out in the past was I was in South Africa when I was about 4. My parents went on a holiday there, and I fell into a pool. And this is something I vividly remember, is actually seeing myself there floating in the pool. And just visually, just calmly, just floating there, just in peace. And I've always had that memory. Yeah, that's pretty much sort of just a brief of my family history with UFOs and these and other, other things. But I could also go back to my mum, but it's a little bit different. And my sister. We've got sort of different perceptions of what's going on. But yeah.
Now, Matt's got a question from our Facebook. He says, do you feel that these experiences are interdimensional, interplanetary, or some other kind of entities? Some people maybe think they're demons. Like, what's your thoughts on what these experiences and, what these beings from somewhere else, where do you think they're from?
Well, for years, I just thought they were some sort of like intergalactic David Attenboroughs. They're just observing us. It just came upon us, our planet, and for the past year, for like 30 years, I've never looked into this subject. I really haven't like delved into it. I've only sort of watched the one or two documentaries you see on corporate TV, which just show nothing, just show UFOs and some aspects of the phenomena. Oh, sorry, what was the question again? Sorry.
Where do you think that these entities are from? Interdimensionals, or from other planets?
Honestly, I don't know. I have no clue. I mean, the fact is, everyone seems to have an answer, and all I can see within the community is a mess. I mean, I've sort of tried to come into it skeptical. I have come in, and it's still the more I look into it, the more bizarre it becomes. You take one step forward and you take 10 steps back. That's what it's like. I can only presume that they are aliens, they're aliens, but there is some other aspect. There seems to be some sort of aspect with consciousness involved, and well, I really don't really have a clue on how that really comes about. But honestly, I have no clue. But I suspect they're just aliens, but I don't know if they're interdimensional beings or something. Who knows?
Matt's got another question. He comes here and likes to ask lots of different probing questions. So he's wondering if you have any family working for government intelligence or law enforcement.
No, no one.
And he's got, have you ever heard of Vril?
Vril? No. What's Vril?
I believe they're a type of entity or whatever. And do you know what Project Bluebeam is?
Yeah, I know of it. I know of where the government supposedly fakes an alien attack or something like that, I think.
Yeah, so Project Bluebeam is they're able to create things into the sky. They could create angels or aliens or motherships. They could create these this energy of light or whatever it is, and to make people believe that maybe there are some entities there when maybe there aren't. So we've been hearing a lot of that lately because they've been talking about a potential fake alien invasion for a while now. And if they do that, then they would maybe use that, through Project Bluebeam. We had someone come on the Missing Link here, Boyd Anderson. He was talking about in 2024, like they brought him into the inner workings of the Illuminati because he scored like the 5 fastest goals in hockey history in like 3 minutes and 8 seconds. He scored 5 goals, and because it was 5308 is like some kind of a special Illuminati number. So they brought him in and told him all about the gold heist and the Bitcoins. And then they talked about in 2024 was this fake alien invasion where they were going to have these ships that are going to look like alien ships, but they'll actually be like jet fighters that are actually shoot into the cities, and so it looks like aliens are attacking, and then everybody's going to be freaked out and scared that all of a sudden we're being attacked by aliens, and then all of a sudden some benevolent aliens are going to come and stop them, and they're going to be the big saviors to humanity. But it's all just going to be a big show. So some people believe that that's kind of the next big step in their efforts for new world order tyranny.
Well, I personally, what I do see whenever I see UFOs on the corporate media, it's usually just used as a distraction. So me personally, I think this is just they're just using these stories because we don't just take a look at the past encounters encounters on TV in regards to the UFOs. It always seems to be a distraction to something else, something that is actually going on. It's I mean, it's good that they're sort of finally admitting, oh yeah, there is something weird going on. But yeah, that's just the way I understand the psyops aspect. I've sort of considered for decades. I've always thought, I'm just being fooled here? But then again, I look at the logistics of it and the fact that there's not one shred of evidence. I mean, if it is some sort of psyop operation, these guys are superhumans. They really are. There's no. It's like impossible to catch them out. So if it is a psyop, so I don't know. They're just some sort of, I don't know. If that's the case, they're some sort of master criminal. I don't know. That's the perception I take. So I always have to sort of go back to back to the non-human intelligence aspect. There is something else going on because you take a look at history, and these beings have been here for thousands of years. It appears to be tens of at least 40,000 years. What I understand, probably definitely longer. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
Are you religious at all? Are you, how do you believe in God? Are you spiritual? Like, what's your, kind of faith when it comes to spirituality?
Nothing. I try to be spiritual. I try to understand spirituality. I even went to like a temple, a Hare Krishna temple, to understand consciousness and spirituality for 2 years and studied the Bhagavad Gita, just to try and, because I can't just I've got to sort of look at all avenues and what's going on, and they seem to have a lot of answers, which are quite surprising. But no, I'm not really a spiritual person. In a way, I'd like to be, but my mind's too skeptical to sort of adhere to sort of one denomination.
Do you believe in like a heaven and a hell and angels and demons type that they teach in a lot of different faiths?
Well, probably not the way they think. It's a tricky one. I mean, I try and sort of jump forward into one of my stories where I believe it was the first time I astral traveled. I sort of didn't realize probably in the mid-90s, and I didn't realize this until last year. That's what happened. And I was in the 90s. I went to bed, and then I was in my room, and there was this guy that I knew, and this was like one of those real dreams, like it was there, and he sort of came up to me. And he was an older guy I worked with. And he was sort of saying some shit in my ear, and then he said that he's the devil. And I just went, what the fuck? And I just picked him up and I threw him across the room. Like, I tried to violently throw him across the room, but it was like throwing a balloon. All right. So it was like, and then everything just went dizzy, and I woke up. And I've had very similar experiences, and then it just exploded last year. Something really weird happened. But yeah, I'll get to that later.
How did you get into like the astral travel? Like, what did you maybe do some research, or did you have some coaching into that, or did you just kind of start falling asleep one day and start traveling, say this is very cool, and just keep trying to reach other places?
Well, no, it just sort of happened naturally, but it's sort of hard to explain. But it really started happening in '92. And I didn't realize all those years. I didn't realize I was in this astral state. It's like people call it a form of sleep paralysis, where you're in bed, but your whole body starts vibrating. Okay, like you vibrate, and then last year I realized I was in a way forced to get up. It was weird, and I should get to that later. I should get to the other part of the story from my other experiences, and I should lead up to that.
So what was your purpose on coming here on the Missing Link?
My main purpose is to find other experiences who had specifically not just seeing a grey, but having a specific type of download from them. That's in regards to seeing symbols, floating symbols, specifically that, or the beings come, visiting and then taking to some sort of astral realm or VR realm, I don't know, and just showing you weird stuff. I've been trying to find people like that. I just really, really, really want to reach out and try and figure out, hey, what do they want? What's going on?
So you truly believe that there are other entities that aren't human that are coming here, visiting, contacting, certain people, showing things, that this isn't just some crazy government psyop where they've got all this technology and they're abducting people and they're saying it's these aliens so they don't have to account for them doing any of these like anal probes or any of these other weird things that they may be doing to humans to study them?
Yeah, no, I do think there is, old really say that, yeah, they are aliens. There are some sort of beings here running around doing weird stuff. I mean, even taking a look at like some of these writers in regards to the field in the '80s. One of them in particular got something like 500,000 letters after releasing his book. I mean, that's like a ridiculous amount of people going, hey, something's going on. So again, I take a look at the numbers, I take a look at the logistics behind it, and to me, it's an impossibility. And this is occurring all over the world as well. It's not specifically like America or Australia or England. It's everywhere. It's just it's bizarre.
Matt's got a question. He says, do you think that we are multidimensional? Does he look at his astral travel as an experience within his mind or outside of his mind?
I wouldn't have a clue. It feels like it's outside of my mind. That's the feeling I get, because when I enter the state, it's like I'm walking around the house. It's like I'm in the house walking around, but it's just a little bit different. There's some differences, and some of them over time have become bizarrely different. But usually it's just yeah, that's how I feel. But really, I don't know. It could be in my mind. I don't know. Wouldn't have a clue.
Diane's asking, she'd like to know more about what he's seeking. And I think from what I gather from what you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that because you're very fascinated with this whole topic and subject, you're looking to connect with more people that have had experiences so you can do more research and confirm, to have people to chat with, about these sort of things. Is that kind of why you're putting yourself out here on the Missing Link, to kind of see anybody else that may have had any experiences, to say, hey, contact me, I'd love to chat with you about your experience? Like, are you looking to write a book? Are you going to do a documentary, or is this only for your own personal curiosity?
This is basically for my own personal curiosity. I've got no intention of writing a book or doing a documentary. I find it I found it like since I've started the research this for the past year, and it's just been a little bit over a year now. I've come across a lot of experiences which have had similar to experiences to what I've had. Some of them not as bizarre as mine. Some of them probably equally bizarre. And I find that's sort of a really good resource. It's something that I don't see people doing enough. We just talk about UFO, blah, 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 and not actually talking about who's actually controlling these drones or transport vehicles. So that's sort of like a big issue, which is not really being discussed. I mean, because we've been talking about UFOs and that for like, 80 years now. And that's it. UFO. Just an object which can travel in a bizarre way that we don't know. That's it, and that's all we know. And sometimes people see an entity, and that sometimes that could be interesting. But yeah.
Do you think that we're manifestors and creators, that we can literally manifest things here? If we see a lot of horror shows and, we all of a sudden we're going to hear something, we're going to see something, like, like our mind seems very powerful. And it seems like the puppet masters here seem to know that. They play with these things. They introduce these things in Hollywood. They introduce all these other things, and now ever since they've been talking about it since the 40s or 50s, then supposedly these first incidences that's happened, the whole community is expanded and exploded, right? And like, I have interviewed lots of people here that have experiences, that have talked to aliens, that one says she's been impregnated by one when she was like 12 years old, and then a tall grays, and then some Nordic aliens came and had to come and take out the implant and stop them. And so a lot of people are having these different experiences, and I'm just trying to, best comprehend what these experiences are and where they're coming from, and if they are actually real entities from other dimensions or other planets or, other places. So I'm really I'm curious as well, and that's why I love to interview people, just to find out what their experiences are with these things.
Yeah, well, yeah, again, it's a tricky one. Again, I have no clue. I really do not have any clue. Again, you look at all these different answers. I only can really tell you what I've seen and experienced, and that's really it. In regards to manifestation, do we manifest these sort of? No, I don't believe so. There's no sort of evidence, but even in psychology, in regards to that type of phenomenon, except for things like schizophrenia. And again, my mum's a psychologist, and she's said I don't have schizophrenia. And she actually cannot explain what I've seen and have gone through either.
Well, lots of people here have experiences, that are real to them. A lot of people that have had severe trauma in their lives, they've had to leave their bodies in order to protect themselves from whatever trauma that they're going through. So they see other worlds, they see other things, they see angels and fairies and other lands, like safe places that they can take themselves, safe places they can take themselves to. And a lot of people that had this trauma, they tend to see a lot more than what the average person can see. Like, be like, hey, did you see that? And be like, no, I didn't see that. But they could see these energies and these things. And like, you see animals and cats or dogs will just kind of like look up at something, and you're looking, and I can't see it, but obviously they seems like they can see something in the corner or whatever. So this energy, something is out there and something is real. They say we only see maybe 10% of what's actually out there with our own five senses. So wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, again, yeah, I don't know. I have no clue, because again, the thing is, we've got all these stories, but we've got like Pacific stories, and a lot of these stories are common. There's a lot of commonality to them, but we've got thousands of interpretations. Yeah, in regards to sort of manifestation, these type of manifestations, I can understand again through trauma, but this is something I haven't gone through any particular trauma that I'm aware of. That I could have blocked out, who knows? But you know, that I'm aware of anyway. So yeah, I don't think this is manifested in any way. Yeah, that's the way I can. Unless you're looking at some things like quantum physics, when it's only becomes real when we observe it or something like that. Yeah.
Do you think that we are, spinning ball floating through space at 66,666 miles an hour, circling around the sun? Or do you think that we're more of a stationary plane where, we have a dome that, wherever these things are coming from, or maybe from the inner earth or coming from a dome? Like, what's your thoughts on, kind of the way our world is
In,
shaped?
in regards to that, I mean, I've got the mind that we're on a sphere, we're hurtling through space, etc., etc. But I'm also happy to listen to other people's theories, because I've seen grey aliens myself, and so nothing's going to surprise me, if we're in some sort of big dome and we're some sort of big lab experiment. But I don't see any evidence of that. So not what I mean. Each time I've looked into it, I've just come to a brick wall, and each time I look at like well, the currents theory on space, and I tend to agree with it.
Paul says the Matrix is a fake dimension. There are many other more real, kinder dimensions which provide comfort. Not a lot of comfort here, hey, Paul?
Indeed, we need to go to a nicer dimension.
You said you were going to share more of your stories of personal experiences, and
Sure.
maybe it's a good time for you to
Well,
tell us a little bit more of the stuff that you've personally experienced yourself.
After my first experience, where I'm like violently electrocuted in my bedroom, this would happen almost 3 to 4 times a week for about 2 years. I'll be lying in bed, and this happened just after this happened. I'll be lying in bed, and it'll feel like something would grab my arm, and I'll start vibrating. I go into that vibration, I couldn't move, and I'll be, oh, fuck. And then it'll stop, and I'll be just laying there for about 10 seconds, and I'll look up, and there's nothing around. And I'm shitting myself. And what the hell was that? Like something feels like it's grabbing me, and I'm bloody shitting myself. Like, I'm this long-haired headbanger, we would go out and have a lot of fun on the weekends, etc., etc. But then all this was happening, and I got to the point where I'm like, I'll be almost in a fetal position before I go to bed, because I know something weird is going to happen. And the other thing was, I started noticing, if I felt fear, I knew nothing was going to happen. But if I felt calm and everything was okay, I knew it was going to happen. I got to the point when, and then one night, and this would have been in 1992 again. I woke up, and I had a grey, but probably this far away from my face, looking straight into my eyes with a big almond eye, tiny nose, tiny slit from my mouth. It was glowing white, and I felt I could feel what it was feeling. Felt this, intense love and whatever. And it said to me, "Don't be afraid. We're not going to harm you." And it told me this telepathically. And I'm just like looking again. Yeah, isn't this great? Sort of. And I blanked out. I woke up, and I thought, fuck, I've seen this being before, and again, and it was at the video store, and the one I'm talking about, grey alien head at the video store, it was Communion. So I thought, what the hell? Because I remember having a look at that video, and I thought it was a documentary, so I never hired it. And if I knew Christopher Walken was in, I would have hired it straight away. And again, I always thought it was just an artist impression or something, just some artist impression of an alien or something. And I thought, shit. So I went and hid it, and I'm watching this film, and I'm just freaking out, thinking, okay, this is not just happening to me. This is happening to some other dude, and you know, who was Whitley Strieber. And I thought, what the hell? So then after that, I just was getting the repeated vibrational effects, and then I went to a friend's house, or one of the band members' house, and I drove another band member because he didn't have a car. And it was at night. We're driving back, and as we're driving back, we saw a too tall, too thin being walk across the road. It was probably 10 feet tall. It was ridiculous, and it just sort of walked lankily across the road. And you know, watching it, I turned to my friend and I said, "Did you see that?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, I thought, oh, okay, I've got validation now. You know, I can sort of tell my story. And I started saying, I've been seeing these beings for freaking months now. You know, been all this weird shit's going on. And each time I'm saying, he's looking at me and going, yeah. And he'll turn back. And it was like he was forgetting everything that I was saying. And because usually we're all chatty, you know, we talk, you know, talk shit and that, blah, 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 talk about music, talk this and that. And he just went silent. And so we're driving along, and I tried to explain to him what's going on, and he just wouldn't engage with me. And then I just changed the subject, and he sort of he seemed to sort of, you know, relate to what I was talking about. Then when I went back to it, he just blanked out. And then when he was leaving, he left the car. I said, "Do you remember? Hey mate, do you remember what happened?" And he looked at me and he goes, "Yeah." His blank face went over his face, and he just walked off. The next band session, I said, "Hey, do you remember what happened?" And he goes, No. He was like dismissive of it. So I thought, okay, that's great. And so then following on from that, the next thing that happened was my mum came knocking on the garage door, and she asked me if anything strange was happening at night. And then I just let it out. I said, "Yeah, Mum, for the past year I've been abducted by aliens. You know, freaking aliens have been blah 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 blah." And she sort of, you know, was a bit shocked what I was saying, but she goes, "No, what possibly could be happening is you're going through sleep paralysis. Your sister's been going through it, and I've been going through these similar things as well." And I asked my mum to explain, and she said when she was younger, she used to have a similar vibrating effect and levitating around the room. My sister had the impression that she was being attacked by ghosts, and like had the pressure, sleep paralysis, or the old hag syndrome effect. So that was their perceptions. And I told my mum what I was going through, and she goes, "Yeah, that's not sleep paralysis," you know, but it's. Part of it was similar, you know, the paralyzing effect. Anyway, going on from there, 90s into the 90s, I told you that strange incident when I was in my room and I threw this guy I knew across the room. And then there was another incident where I moved next door to my uncle's. There was a room for rent, so I thought I'll take it up. And one of the I got really, for some reason, I got up in the middle of the night, or not during the day. I think I crashed during the day. I got up and I was really sick and going, fuck, I'm really sick. And I saw a friend, a housemate, and she goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Oh, I feel really sick." And then each time I moved, it just got worse and worse. And then I blanked out and I found myself in bed. And I thought, shit. And I went up to the housemate and said, "Did this happen?" She goes, "No." She looked at me and go, "No, that's not." So like little weird things like that would happen every now and then. I would get up out of bed, but I'm feeling violently sick and forcing myself. So I thought that was weird. Anyway, so then things sort of changed. Then it came 2000, you know, I got into DVD ripping and that back in the day, got into like computers back in the good old XP days. And I also got into geopolitics heavily, such as like the Iraq War, 9/11 and all that sort of stuff. And, I'd even be on the computer talking to people on Yahoo chat, soldiers who are stationed in Kuwait, and I'll be telling them, there's no weapons of mass destruction there. You're going to kill a whole lot of people over a lie. So I'll be doing stuff like that, like constantly. And then it really happened. I had a visitation from them. Oh no, sorry. I should actually digress. Actually, I forgot a bit. I'll go back to I moved to Seymour in 1994. Sorry, I forgot a bit. Moved to Seymour, and a couple of incidences happened. One, I was in the room, and there was all these headbangers in the hanging out, and I knew that these beings were in the house. I knew it. I could almost see them, and so I told the dudes, I'm going to crash. I'm just going to crash for a little while. This is midday at the time. So I lay down and I said out loud, if there's any beings here, or aliens here, could you give me a sign so I know I'm not crazy? So I lay down, and then all of a sudden I went into that vibrational effect, and I started being dragged around the room. And it was like two small entities were grabbing a leg each and trying to drag me around. And I'm going, whoa, 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 like shit, the fuck. And then I sort of came out of it, and there was nothing there. Another incident was I woke up, and it looked like I perceived I was in a car, and there was a friend of mine and a lady friend of mine in the passenger seat, and it was like smoothly going through the forest area, because Seymour's out, sort of going out to the bush, out bushway, and the passenger looked at me, and I blanked out, and I woke up, and I'm in a giant, it looked like an aircraft hangar, and there was like these dudes standing around in a circle, looked like dads dressed up as going shopping or something. And they, one of them looked at me, and I blanked out, and I woke up in front of the front door, and then I was lifted onto my back, and I was levitated, or felt like I was levitated or carried back in, and then I was placed back into bed, and I was motionless for about 5 minutes, and then I got up and was, what the fuck? What? Sorry about the language, but
no, it's okay. Just feel free to share it. There's no language restrictions here.
Oh, good. Okay, excellent. And yeah, so that was strange. So then going back to that was sort of the only strange things. And then after that, the encounters sort of started happening once a year. All these like so-called sleep paralysis effects where I'll be vibrating or something like that, something minor. But in 2003, this is early 2003, probably early February.
Before you get into that, I just wanted to ask a question that maybe some other people were thinking about. But in the 90s, that was about 30 years ago, and you were part of a band, you're rock and roll, long hair, mosh pits, all that kind of thing. Lots of drugs. Were you consuming at that time lots of different type of drugs? And were you just kind of a weed smoker type of guy, or did you consume a lot of these crazy wild drugs that may have taken your mind into these altered places and dimensions that maybe it opened up to certain things at that time?
Well, I was a big pot smoker back then. I took LSD. I've only taken LSD probably 10 times in my life. So I wasn't like someone who would smash harder drugs or anything. I didn't take, in my younger years, I never took any sort of it was just pot. That was basically it. I probably took LSD a few times. I can't remember, and it was around about the time I started taking LSD. I mean, I was in my early 20s. I probably took LSD when I was probably 18 was the first time, but I didn't never smashed it or anything, and I didn't see any aliens or anything like that.
Okay, so forward 10 years later, you're talking about 2002, 2003, maybe?
2003. Yeah, I was late at night. I was in my room, and I heard something outside and out on the balcony. I was living in St Kilda at the time, so I moved to St Kilda. again, living with my parents, because usually, you know, I'm sort of a bludger, and I used to be a big bludger back in the day, or even 20 years ago. And I heard a noise outside, and then I went outside and I saw, say, 3 or 4 shadowy beings, small shadowy beings, and they nimbly jumped over the balcony, and they're looking at me through the balcony railings. And I thought nothing of it. So I thought, I'll go back. I'm just going to go to bed. I'll just stuff this on, just so ignore them, let them do whatever they're going to do. And so I lay down, and then what happened was I heard a voice in my head, and it said, "Get up." And I ignored it. And it said, "If you don't get up, you're going to hear a loud noise in your ear." And I ignored it. And then all of a sudden, laying down, and then all of a sudden in my ear, this intense noise started, you know, quite softly, and then it went extremely loud in my ear. And then I just got so annoying, I got up. I really had no choice either. I had this horrible noise in my ear, so I got up. And they were in the room, but I couldn't see them. They were invisible. And so then they told me to turn on my computer. So I turned on my computer, and it took, and this is like, you know, with the old XP computer, so they took, you know, a couple of minutes to start up. But this took like something like 5 minutes to start up. And I'm sort of wondering, what the hell's happening to my computer? They said that I was being watched. And I don't know what that meant, but apparently I was being watched. And I suspected it had something to do with me ranting about all the BS about the Iraq War, because there's only a few of us really doing it back then online. And that's what I thought. And then they told me to, then they asked for a CD of mine. I just like a CD rewritable, which I had like backups from an old website that I had, just software. And I said, sure, okay. So I picked it out, and they told me to take it outside. So okay, so I took it outside. I went down, it was St. Leonard Street, I think, in St. Kilda towards Ackland. So I'm just walking towards Ackland Street, and it just told me to walk. This is in the middle of the night. So I'm walking down the street, and I see this guy walking past. He's sort of walking lankily, sort of tallish, maybe Mediterranean in appearance, and looked like he was drunk. And he walked past, and he stunk of alcohol, made an inhuman noise. And then I heard that voice in my head saying, "That's one of us." Okay, fair enough. So I went down the end of the street, and they told me to put this thing at the end of the street. So okay, I did that. So I'm walking back, and the same guy's walking back the other way. And as he walked back, he didn't look drunk, he didn't stink, he just walked past and didn't make any inhuman noise or anything. And I said, okay. So I went back inside, and you know, we're talking about, you know, websites I made. They talked about this. We had a sort of a discussion in regards to nanotechnology, molecular nanotechnology, in regards to molecular manufacturing, because I sort of had a theory that that's how they built the UFOs through. I've read this book in 1995, which blew my mind away, called by K. Eric Drexler, called Engines of Creation. Highly recommend people read this book. And it sort of gave me an understanding on a possible way of how these beings build their craft. Not exactly in regards to their technology, but how their machines, how their machines work, but how potentially you could build these machines with types of material, say, you know, like carbon or so called. You know, making a house from a we had like discussion making a house from a sack of coal, you know, by changing the molecular structure of the coal into a diamond structure. And you can basically have a house. You can achieve that through molecular manufacturing. So I had a weird conversation like that, talked about a few websites, and then they told me to sit down on my bed, okay, with my feet up on my bed, sort of sitting up. I said, "Can you do that?" And I said, "Oh, okay, all right." So I did it. Yeah, this is what really gets me. This is what I'm really trying to find other experiences who had this experience in particular. So I'm sitting down, and the room started fading away, and I'm flying through space, like like flying through space, and I come up to a planet. And it didn't look like Earth, but it was a blue-green planet. So I'm looking at this planet, and then I just get shoved away. I get moved around, and then it looks like I'm traveling back through Earth. But the Earth looked a little bit different. It was like very different. It was sort of more lush. There was some sort of like, it's hard to sort of describe the structure which I saw. It looked like it was made out of like scaffolding or pipes. It's really hard to describe. It was like when you look at those industrial sites with the pipes everywhere, but people were just sort of casually just walking around it, you know, instead of like having construction workers and that. It was just people just casually walking around it. And then I had then I saw there was another vision that I was shown where there was like a mountain range, but again it was like a scaffolding structure was going all the way along it, almost all the way to the top of it, like from the base of the mountain all the way almost to the top of the mountain range was this long walking structure, and there's all these people just casually walking around on this structure. And I was okay. And then there was the other vision, which was probably the most significant for some reason. It was not this one, sorry. I was in a park, and there was just people in the distance with some sort of stone. It looked like some stone structure had been carved out or something. And the next vision was of a little girl and kids playing. The little girl was just looking down on the grass, and that was it. And so that I was showing that vision, and then I was back out in space, and I was just looking. It was just all very, you know, very peaceful and that. And then all of a sudden, I see symbols, floating symbols, floating around. You know, like sort of a golden neon sort of look to them, and they started sort of coming towards me. These symbols, and then they started entering me, going inside of me. And then I got to the point where I knew how to use like this sort of, I could only describe it as an intergalactic internet. And I got to choose, I was able to look at some sort of place where there like another race where they had like, well, it was on par with humans now. And I wanted to have a look at something like that. And apparently I did, right? But I have to get to that, why I can't really describe it. And then I sort of come back out, and then more symbols are coming into me, more and more and more. They're just like pumping into me. And then I got to the point where I understood what was going on, and I knew everything. I knew everything that they were doing, everything that was going on, and my head was starting to feel like it was going to explode. And I said to him, I understand. And then I was given all this detail, all this information, and then they said, we're going to make you forget that. And then I'm just going to think, well, this is the most wonderful thing I've ever heard. This is the most fantastic thing I've ever heard. You're going to make me forget it. And I'm trying desperately to just remember one aspect of it. And I couldn't do it. And it slipped away. So I could only remember they allowed me for some reason to remember the feeling of or the ride. That I wasn't allowed to know any detail, only that this is what they're claiming, is that there's a plan going on, and my perception, what I saw, it seemed to be wonderful. It seemed to be great. Whether I'm being deceived or not, I don't know, but this is basically what they said, and it was fantastic. And then after that, I just what I did was so basically the room and everything started coming back, and then basically I was in my room again. So it was just that aspect. I'm trying to understand more about symbols. It's like when symbols pop up on TV, or I try and take a screenshot and trying to see if I can recognize anything. But after that, After that, I actually went and I pulled out a joint and I started smoking it in front of them, and they didn't seem to really care. So I thought, fuck this, this is fucking weird. And they didn't say anything. They just sort of observed me while I just sat there in silence smoking a joint. They then confirmed to me. They showed me this vision of that auntie that I was talking about. Or it's not an auntie; it's like a family from my dad's mother's ex-husband's sister. She had this intense vision of her, and I didn't really realize at the time because I basically, for some reason, forgot about her experiences and that. I even had a discussion with her, and I think I just dismissed her because my mind was too skeptical. Even though I've seen grey aliens and that, I just dismissed her. And then that was basically confirmation for what she was telling me. She was telling me the truth. She at least had some sort of interaction with them. Then after that, it's few things happened. I was just sort of, it looks like they wanted me to sit down on the bed while I imagine while they examined me. And then they said it's time to go. And there was a sound outside my balcony, like a whoop, 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 whoop sound. And they said, that's the UFO. And that's the UFO outside. Do you want to have a look? And I could sort of see it in my mind anyway. I said, couldn't be bothered. So because it was, the whole night was just awkward and weird. That's the only way I could describe it. I was in a sort of like a very awkward state. It was just, they just sort of come up announced, and it was like, the whole thing was like a big shock to me. And then they left. And then from there, again, I only had from after that, I only had sort of sporadic experiences until last year. It was strange. I actually went to a UFO festival last year. It was the first one I went to, and it was like, it was more cosplay than anything else. People just doing stuff like that, and apparently, all the speakers were sick, so the forum was cancelled. So I was like, but anyway, that was in early or mid-August. In late August, I was in bed and I felt this dread coming over me, and I thought, here we go. And I heard something land. It felt like something landed outside, and then I heard footsteps right outside my window. I was just laying there, going, "Oh shit, what's going on?" Blah blah blah. And then I was able to move. It wasn't vibrating or anything. I just into that so-called dread sleep paralysis mode. And then on September the 9th, I was like hiking through Mount Barnsley, and I wanted to do Mount Lindsay.
What year?
Sorry?
What year was this?
This was last year. Sort of moving on to last year, because basically nothing really strange has happened really since then. And so I went to Mount Barnsley, and I haven't been in that vibrational effect for years, or like significant. If it was something minor, and it's maybe something I sort of noticed in the middle of my sleep or something. But and I'm trying to find a campsite because it's getting pretty late, because I want to do Mount Lindsay the next day, and I couldn't find one. I said, I'll just crash in the car, and I'll just go to the border crossing, and which is where Mount Lindsay is, and I'll just crash there. So I'm laying down in the front seat of my car, put the seat back, and then I go through that full-on vibrational effect. My whole body started vibrating. Now, this just a note that where I'm actually standing is actually Yowie country. I don't know if you know what a Yowie is. So it's a Australian version of the Sasquatch. So we have that basically. And I have stories about the Yowie as well, because I live in Yowie country. But anyway, so another story, but nothing that I witnessed, but other people have talked about. So then in September the 9th, so I crashed there. My body started vibrating, and I thought, okay, that's weird. That happened. So I crashed out, and then I woke up 12 hours later. So I went to bed at 10. I crashed at 10 and woke up at 10 a.m. And that's pretty bad, because I really needed to do the climb. So really, it started at 8, but I did the climb and that, blah blah blah. And following on that, I was I was back home about a week later. I was in my room. Went to bed, and my body went through that vibrating effect again. And I'm thinking, my God, what's going on? Are these beings here, or what's going on? So I went to turn on my bedside light, but my light wouldn't work. So I picked up my phone to try and get some light from my phone, shine it around. That wouldn't work. I go, that's bloody weird. Oh, fuck. And so then then it just stopped, and I sort of looked around, got up, looked around, nothing there. A week later, it happened. Something sort of happened a little bit more strange this time. I was actually doing a afternoon shift, so I was going to bed pretty late anyway. And yeah, it was weird. It was weird. I was late at night. I turned the TV off, went and crashed around about 2 a.m. And then the TV turned on, and this is like from turning it off from the off position on it, because you got two options. You turn it off and it goes on standby. But I usually put it off, and it turned on. Oh, fuck, what? That's weird. So I got up and I thought, okay, I'll start for a while. I'll have a cigarette, just start for a little while, and just chill out. And then I heard, and apparently this happens. This happens to a few people. I had to go outside. I had something just compelling me to go outside. So I went outside, nothing. So okay, stuff this. And then it got to around about 3 o'clock, 3:30. So I'm going to bed now. So I went to bed, went to lay down, and my body went into that vibrational thing, but quite not as violently, but still quite intense, and it stopped. And usually that's it. Okay, it's never happened again. But then it happened again, and I'm going, what the fuck? My whole body's shaking again. It stopped. And again, I'm trying to turn on my light. My light's not working. My phone's not working, and this is weird. So then, and then it's happened again. I actually got pissed. I got fucking angry. I got up and went, fuck this. What the fuck is going on? So I got up. I'm trying to think, is fucking anything around? And I'm trying to turn on my lights, turn on my bedroom light. The bedroom light wouldn't work on. So I walk out to the hall, turn on that light. That wouldn't work. So I'm coming out, what the fuck? I thought, I'll have a ciggy. You're going to fuck this. I'm going to have a cigarette. So I went and had a look at the coffee cup. I looked at the coffee cup. It was all dark, so I couldn't see it. So I tried a kitchen light. That wouldn't work. But then I noticed outside the solar light was on. So I looked outside and I was thinking, what the fuck is going on? I'm looking around, and each time I looked at the solar light would dim out. As I moved my focus away from it, it would turn on, and I could see it in the corner of my eye. And I think, what's happening? And then I sort of went dizzy, and I found myself in bed. I'm going, what the hell? Is this? Then I'm thinking, is this the astral realm? Is this supposed to be the astral realm that I'm supposed to be in, or is this lucid dreaming or whatever, out of body experience? But okay, that's weird. So then I got like a clothes peg, and it's my special clothes peg now, and I put it right on my bedroom table. Oh, no, not bedroom, my bedside table. And so next time it happened, I thought, okay, I'm in this astral realm. I'm going to experiment. So I get into the state. My body starts vibrating. I move the peg to the other side of the bedside table. So I move the peg, and I get up, and I start. I'm start walking around the house. It's a little bit different. For some reason there was a floodlight on the corner of the roof. So I had some lighting in the house, which isn't there anyway. And I'm trying to float. Okay, people in astral realm float. So I'm trying to float, but I couldn't. I seemed to be grounded. So I walk around, had a look outside, come back in. I did some chin-ups. I got a chin-up bar. So I did some chin-ups, and I felt incredibly light. It was like I didn't weigh at all. And then it just got dizzy. I got dizzy, and I woke up in bed. I thought, okay, that's weird. And it's happened a few times since then. And I just get up, experiment. I go on to like the astral travel forums on like Reddit and that. And people tell them their experience. And one guy was talking about how he said, don't look in the mirror. And then, okay, that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to look in the mirror, right? And he said he had a really bad experience. He had all these. Apparently, he had these faces looking at him, smiling at him, really creepily. And so I thought, I'm going to do that. See if I can get a creepy smile. So So next time it happened, I went to the bathroom and it was strange. Instead of like seeing anything creepy, it was like I saw different versions of myself. I saw one version which was looked pretty gronky. Another version behind him looked pretty staunch. He had a beard. And then there was another one on the side, and he was a little bit on the staunch side as well. And I've experimented a few things. I even took a pee once, and then while I was having a pee, I was thinking, "Shit, am I going to wet the bed?" But I didn't. I actually did a pee. I was doing all this weird stuff. And then it started getting bizarre. I thought, okay, I'm going to go outside and just see if I can summon an entity or something. So I go outside. This is another time. So I go outside and I'm actually on a mountain. I'm on Mount Fairy in Kyogle. So there's a little tiny road up the side. But in this astral realm, there right next to my house, there was like a road and a bus. I saw a bus drive up, and it went right next to the veranda. And the door opened. There was this bus driver lady, and I said, "Okay, where's this going?" And she said to me, "It's not your time yet." And okay, that's weird. And right behind me, there was this woman, and she was counting her money. How much she was counting her coins. That's pretty weird. Then another time, I see the bus, and it's actually looked like it crashed, and it's going up the mountain on the road, just laying there on the side. I mean, just weird stuff like that. Really, that's about it. Since this year, I haven't had much in regards to much of going into the astral realm. Just it's happened. It sort of happens now once every 2 months or so. The last year was like happening almost every 2 weeks, every week to every 2 weeks. But yeah, so that's really it's pretty much my story.
And when was the last time you've had one?
Oh, it was probably about. Honestly, it was probably 3 months ago. I had but it's nothing significant. No, yeah, it was all mostly what was happening what I observed last year. I seem to be able to get into that state better if I meditate before I go to bed. So I'll be sitting down on the side of my bed. I'll sort of meditate, blah blah, and it seems to take me into this realm.
You mentioned clothes peg.
Yeah.
Could you maybe tell us what that is? Some people like.
Yeah, I've got it here. I got it right here. That's it. This is the clothes peg I took to the astral realm.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about to chuck it back in the basket, but I thought, no, I want to keep this. So my astral peg. I know it looks ridiculous, but I thought that was. I'm going to keep that.
So it sounds like the common denominator in all these experiences is your bed. You're sleeping, you're going on these adventures, you wake up in bed. It seems like, you're in and out of your bed a lot through, your experiences.
Except for the one in 2003. But basically I wasn't sleeping or anything at that time. That was the only time, but yeah, usually it happens when I'm laying down in bed. Yeah, actually always happens laying down in bed. Yeah, the only other experience that didn't was when I saw the alien walk across the road, or the being walk across the road. It was too tall, too thin. But most of the time, yeah, happens while I'm in bed.
Wow. And, is there anything that, do you maybe like consume anything? Do you feel any certain way before it happens? Like, is there any signs of stuff that's going on in your life that, kind of correlate to, why that you maybe have these experiences?
No, I can't. I've got suspicions, but I can't really pinpoint it to that. I really don't know. I can't really pinpoint anything out of the ordinary. When I research other experiences, it's sort of the same thing. There's really nothing to really point out. There's some things which are similar. I do find a lot of people who are experiences of ADHD. That seems to be a common occurrence. Yeah, that's all I really know.
Have you ever tried to have one of these experiences yourself without, have you tried to put yourself into a meditative state, put yourself into the lucid dreaming, try to put yourself, like, have you ever tried to do it without it just actually naturally happening to you?
Yeah, just once or twice, and that was really not all that long ago when I sort of meditate before. But I don't know if it was a coincidence. It's something I don't do really much often anymore is meditate. I used to do Maha mantras and all that. Uh, I used to do japa a lot, which is like the Hare Krishna sort of chanting, or that type of meditation. But no, they don't seem to. I'm not too sure if it does have an effect, but it seemed like the few times I have done it, which I did it last year, it seems to sort of help. But any other time, no, just me going for the normal day.
So is there certain times of day this happens? Is it throughout the night, or, is it always different times, or is it kind of always kind of happens around the same time?
I have noticed. Sometimes it happens more frequently around about 3 to 4 a.m. But again, it happens really anytime because usually if it's like if I'm going to crash or something, it would happen. Or I'll go to sleep. It would happen then, or something would happen then. And I really that's yeah.
A lot of people do have experiences that around 3 to 4 AM, so this isn't unusual because, for a lot of people that I've heard, after 3 AM, it seems like, that people end up having whatever these experiences are, so you're not alone in that time frame.
Yeah, they call it the witching hour. It's apparently it's been common throughout time, and that during those times it's weird, but honestly, it's happened like mostly when it happens. Mostly when it happens like 3 to 4 a.m., but it happens anytime really. It's happened during the day. It's happened, during the night. But yeah,
Have you ever seen a witch?
um, well, apart from my ex-partner, no. Apart from them, or ex-partners, no, no. Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware. I don't think I've seen any sort of like, oh, well, you know, apart from the ones that claim they're witches, ones that stand out, no.
Someone asked earlier if maybe you and your family are aliens. You ever thought that maybe, you, your mom, your sister having these experiences, maybe some reason you're different, that maybe you're come from a bloodline of, some kind of alien race? Have you ever thought of that maybe?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Oh, well, the thing is, it's generational. What's going on? It appears to have happened to mine. I don't know if it's happened with my grandmother or great grandmother or anything like that. But there does seem to be some sort of generational aspect to this. Um, yeah, so it's but to see if I've got I don't know if I'm an alien, hybrid, I'm just plain human, or if we've just been hybridized. I really don't know. I do have slight psychic abilities. Um, they're subtle, but my mum has it as well. Like she'll say to me when I was a child, like before the phone would ring, I would say who was about to ring. So I'll do that. It was a common thing I'd do. I'll be like, even now, I'll be driving along and something will say, "Hey, slow down. There's an animal on the road." I slow down and then I see a fox, run across the road. Things like that. I pick up little things like, yeah, little things like this and that. My mum, she does something else that she actually mentioned to me not long ago. That when she's reading and she goes, "Oh, I need to go shopping. I need to go. I need to buy something." immediately her dogs will get up and go to the door and sit at the door, hoping that they'll take her, go shopping. You know, this is what it's like. But every time she'll think, I'm going to go out, the dogs will go to the door, hoping that she'll take them. That's what happened. That's what would happen.
Do you know what your blood type is? Because some people believe Rh negative, or some certain blood types, are prone to kind of this stuff happening. But
Mine's
I was actually accused of trying to find people's blood types or something. I don't know, some crazy conspiracy nuts that were targeting me. But you don't have to share, obviously, if you don't want to. But
no, mine. Oh no, it's O plus.
O plus. Okay, so that's the common one, I think.
Yeah, it's probably the most common. Yeah, one of the most common. Yeah, O plus.
Wow. So, why do you think that these experiences are happening to you?
Again, I have no clue. I have no clue whatsoever. I can sort of. The only thing I can really think of is probably the person I am. Maybe when you take a look at experiences, they seem to do fall under a certain category. They don't seem to be too criminally minded. They usually, work. I do volunteer work for, forestry or animal rescue, things like that. And I find a lot of people sort of in that sort of those sort of characters, even like firemen, even a lot of policemen, doctors, and all that. They sort of can fall into that category. They seem to also there seems to be some sort of a window of people which are either have encounters with these things or allowed to remember the encounters. Yeah, it's a tricky one. Honestly, I don't know. I can't be certain, but yeah.
Any kind of groups in your own little city, like, UFO groups? Like, do you go, like, they have Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous? Do they have any like UFO Anonymous, or where people that have had experiences kind of get together and share their stories? Like, do you have any of that, kind of locally, or do you do that online with people?
Yeah, I do. There's a like a Northern Rivers Gold Coast paranormal group, which we discuss. So I think it's like fortnightly, monthly. So I go on there and I have a discussion about it, about our experiences, or the host might have a topic a particular topic they want to sort of discuss. So yeah, I do. Yeah, I do in that regard. But I've probably done it around about 5-6 times, and it's just this year. I've never done it before, anything like this before.
If you could, now that you're free and clear of mind, communicate, your thoughts to these things that are communicating with you, like, what would you like tell them? Like, why, like, what would you ask them? What would you say to them now that you're not in that experience? Because when you're in that experience, you're kind of like, flying by the seat of your pants. And now that you're just here chatting and thinking about it, like, is there anything, any message or any kind of question you would ask them, like why they're doing this to you, or like, is there stuff that you have in your head, what you would say to them?
No, well, just like what the little girl from the aerial school phenomenon said, basically, if I paraphrase, what do you want and what are you doing here? That's it. I still don't know what they want. It was because there's too many possibilities. There's too many in the UFO community. There's a lot of people like me who don't have a clue what's going on, but it seems to be there's another group of people who know exactly what's going on, and every single one of them have a different answer. So yeah, again, I got no clue.
Greg Shondell from our Facebook says someone is hacking your brain. Any thoughts on potentially they have voice to skull technology? They have all these telecommunications and towers. They're experimenting on humans. Any thoughts on potentially, someone hacking into your brain and, putting you through these experiences, just as like a test subject?
Yeah, I mean, I doubt, again, I doubt if the humans are doing this, because again, the logistics of doing something like this is incredible, and there's no, I see no shred of evidence of any psyops operation in regards to this. For non-human intelligence, I see the possibility. I'm being hacked, but also another thing I forgot to mention. Also, the reason why I was decided to study into this, because I thought for years implants were BS, or implants were, and hybrid, the ideas about hybrids were all BS. So I never actually decided to look into the subject. And then I was watching a Whitley Strieber interview, and he started talking about implants, and I jokingly went like this, because I got this lump on my ear I've had since '92, which I remember. All right. And I put my hand up, and I jokingly said, this is my implant. And then he put his hand to the exact same spot and goes, this is my implant. And my jaw dropped, and I go, what the fuck? And so now I suspect I've got an implant in my ear. All right. Doctors say it's a cyst, but I intend to sort of have it cut open and have just see if there is something there, see if either pus comes out of it, or is it an implant device. So yeah, I for some reason I'm not 100% convinced, but I'm almost convinced there's a fucking implant in my ear.
Wow. So if you're walking down the road and in, say, late evening, it's kind of dark outside, and a ship flies up, stops right in front of you, and says, Les, we need you, get in. What do you do?
Well, I've probably got no choice anyway, so I'll just get in. My curiosity will have the better, well, I'm a very curious person, so yeah, I'll probably jump in. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's have a look around. I mean, if they wanted to, do something unspeakable to me, horrible to me, they could easily do that. If they said, yeah, you want to come and do this? I'll go, yeah, sure, why
not? Are you afraid of them at all?
In the beginning, I was. Early 90s, I was. In the 90s, I was, because I didn't know what the hell was going on. But then after time, you sort of just get used to it, and it just becomes, whatever, you just sort of get used to it.
Have you ever thought of going under some kind of like hypnosis, or doing some kind of psychedelic drugs to put you into different dimensions? Does that stuff interest you or make you nervous? Or
no, I'm curious. So I have tried hypnosis twice, but that doesn't work on me. My mum says she did this test on me where she got a pen, you lift it up, and she says my eyes don't roll back, or they don't roll back far enough, and that's an indication that's extremely hard for me to get hypnotized. That was what she said. I was like, okay, whatever. And so I tried it once years ago, and then I tried it again. I think it was either last year or the year before. Yeah, probably the year before, end of 2001, I think. Maybe I tried it, and oh no, sorry, no, it would have been last year. I tried the hypnosis, tried to hypnotize her for 2 hours. It didn't work. And I'm just sitting there going, okay, whatever. Here's my money. But I intend to try it again soon.
Have you ever tried DMT or ayahuasca?
Funny enough, I've tried it once, not too long ago. I've heard stories, so I just tried a little bit, just a tiny. I didn't break through, when you break through. So I just tried a little bit to see what happens, and just everything sort of turned into a cartoon and all bloody weird. And at that time, I thought I wasn't in the right frame of mind to try it. I'm trying to I probably will do in a couple of months. Have a breakthrough session of DMT.
So that was DMT that you tried the first time?
Yeah, I just tried a small amount, and again, everything just went nice colors. I didn't see beings or anything.
When I was in Thailand about 6 years ago, I broke my foot. I crashed a motorbike through a lawyer's office window, and I broke my heel in 2 places. And I was stuck in Koh Phangan, which is the Full Moon Party Island there in Thailand. And so I saw a lot of, and I was there for a few months because I got thrombosis and I couldn't fly and all this kind of stuff. So I was there almost 3 months and met a lot of people. And I met this shaman from the US military, well, used to be or whatever. I think his name was Gabriel. And he had all these wild kind of drugs and different things that he was giving out as weird because how scary Thailand was, especially at that time for people like that. But he was giving people different stuff, mescaline, and then he had this DMT, and he asked if I wanted to try it. And I had a broken foot, and I tried it the first time, and then a week later, I tried it a second time, and basically it happened. The exact same thing happened 2 times in a row. And when I went to the other side, I saw this, it was like these Egyptian goddesses, and they were dancing, and they had snake tongues, and they were trying
Mm.
to pull me into them, but I didn't want to look at them. I felt like almost like a Medusa thing, so I could see them out of the corner of my eye, and they were trying to pull me, and their energy was trying to pull me into them, but I didn't want to give them my power, my energy, and then they faded away, and then I just saw the lights and colors and
Yep.
shapes and the rest.
Sorry, I'll be back in a sec. I've got something at the door. I'll just
Yeah,
quickly get rid of them.
no worries. So yeah, so I saw all these lights and colors, and everything was, it was fine. There wasn't anything like, scary or anything, but tried it a week later, second time ever. Never tried ayahuasca. It's one thing I still wanted to try, but same thing happened. Same, these like Egyptian goddesses and this music, this dancing. It was this seductive music, and it was like they were trying to pull me into them. And I just felt like if I looked at them, I was going to be like, the Medusa, the whole story. You look and you freeze. She's got these snake. I didn't see the snake things, but I could just see like the tongue was like a snake tongue, and I could see it out of the corner of my eye. But yeah, if anybody needs a break, anybody needs to go take a pee or whatever, probably now is probably a good time. So, but that was my experiences with it. It's quite fascinating, these different dimensions. But I was just sharing them that my experience was, with that DMT that happened twice in a row. The same kind of thing happened, which was quite fascinating to me.
Oh, so I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hello? Can you hear me? Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test test test. Test 1 2.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay,
Cool.
got me. Okay, yeah. So I was just sharing my experiences, what happened with the DMT, and it happened twice the exact same time. And I can see that there are different dimensions, there are different portals you can actually go to. I was awake, and I smoked a little bit of this DMT, and like, wow, was that ever quite the experience? So that's why I was wondering for yourself about, crossing over to see what you would see, what kind of experience you would have on the other side.
Well, yeah, I'll be trying it soon. So I'll fill you in what I experience in that regard.
Do you eat healthy then? Patricia's saying fresh pineapple and green apples. He eats healthy, probably raises his vibration too. Are you a healthy eater then?
Um, yeah, pretty much. I'm actually a very strict vegan. Been vegan for about 30 years now.
How much?
30 years.
30?
30 years, yeah. I went vegan in 1995. Turned vegan, and in 91 I was vegetarian. Went vegetarian. I have suspected that might have something to do with my abductions as well. I'm not too sure, but yeah. So I do. I like being vegan doesn't mean being healthy. I've been I've been overweight. I've eaten a lot of junk food. I've even had vegan doctors tell me I'm a crap vegan. Like in the past, this is like probably 10 years ago. I was doing bodybuilding that, but I was eating really crap diet. But now I've really know my nutrition. I have very good meals. quite very healthy, and usually they're quite balanced. And I mean, I don't stay away from junk food, but I don't have them as much as I used to.
What do you think about the last 3 years and what's been transpiring? And I know Australia, that's where you're in, is Australia, right? And
Mm.
you guys were very, very strict, very, very locked down. So what's your take on, what's happened these last 3 years?
Well, it was ridiculous, really. It's a joke. It's an incredible joke. And right from the beginning, it was probably around about when it first started, hitting the airways. I just didn't say anything to anyone. I didn't have any opinions because I didn't have any information. And then probably March 2020, I figured out this is all a scam, right? This is all bullshit. What's going on? Where a pretty good journalist, I don't know if you know him, Ben Swan.
Yeah.
He probably did the first analysis of the data in regards to the COVID deaths, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And he was pointing it out. It's not like, because back then it was like, 6.4%, people are going to die and all this sort of shit, whoever gets it, And but the calculations that the WHO had on the data that they had was more like on par to the seasonal flu. Okay, so what's going on? So basically, it's what I see. It's just all about controlling the population. That's all they did. I told people, do not take the. I was telling people, I'm not a doctor in that, but I still told people, do not take this injection. It's bad news. And it was funny being here because you see people wearing masks, and then I'd go to the shop without a mask. It's a little bit different because I'm rural area. I had like freedoms which the people in the cities didn't have. So I could basically go anywhere, go to the shops without a mask, without being hassled by cops or anything. So I suppose that wasn't too bad, but all in all, it was just, the whole thing was just ridiculous. You could see how many people are still sheep. We'll just follow the leader. We'll do everything they say, and what, billions of people were happy to stick a poison inside, inject a poison inside them. So yeah, good on you. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm really worried about what's going to. We know so far. Apparently now it's like 1 in 800 people are suffering when it's supposed to be 1 in 100,000 in regards to vaccines. So it's something like 1 in 800 people are suffering from these vaccines, or so-called mRNA technology. And there's a lot of them are screwed. And we don't know what the long-term effects are, but it looks like we're soon going to find out. So I'm not impressed by personally. I'm not impressed by humans. I have never been. Like going back to the weapons of mass destruction. So many people believe that. It was incredible. 1 million people were murdered over 1 million people were murdered over a lie, and all the other wars of all the other wars. Every single war was based on lies and deception. The war in Libya, in Syria, Yemen. It was just all lies. It just, and people give the governments a moral excuse to go and murder people, and it's because of people's stupidity. And it gets me every single time. Every single time, people are just dumb. And I'm sorry, and now all those majority of those people have stuck a poison in them, and now they have to face the consequences. And maybe I will have to too, because a lot of us are, which I don't know too much about, only a little bit about the shredding aspect of these vaccines. So now I'm thinking, shit, am I going to have to distance myself from people who have had the jab? It's really hard to get, be in a relationship, because I actually don't want to be in a relationship with someone who's had the vaccine. So you know what I mean? It's really weird now.
Do you know a lot of people that are around you, friends, family, people in your city that are awake and aware, or is a good majority of the population, majority of the people have been injected, and you're just
Oh, the majority, probably the majority of people I know, they were forced into it. I mean, I had to leave. I had to leave my job because I didn't take the vaccine. I had to quit my job and just become a dole bludger until I could find work, until someone could accept me. Yeah.
Are you happy with that decision of not taking it, leaving your job? Like, is that any regrets on that?
No, I wouldn't. No regrets. Like fuck them. They were fucking bastards. What they were doing. Telling you got to take the jab or lose your job. I mean, the assholes. I mean, our government are a bunch of assholes, and unfortunately, our population are so stupid. We're happy to vote them in every single time. These fucking mass murderers, these people who do not give a shit about our lives, these people who hide. There's even like I don't know if you know about, there was in the mid 2000s, John Howard, the then Prime Minister, sealed a document of all these these pedophile politicians. So we can't see this information in 90 years. This is how deep it goes. It's disgusting. It's just strange, weird.
Who do you think is pulling the strings? Like, how far do you think that this goes up? And do you think even it's people, or do you think that there are entities maybe controlling, people here? Like, where do you see that the rabbit trail goes?
I see no evidence that beings have anything to do with this. People have made these claims, the reptilians and that, but I've not seen any evidence. So what was the question again? Sorry.
Just how far up the rabbit trail do you think that this thing goes? Like, where's your research gone? That who's pulling the strings here?
In regards, it seems to be do with the what do they call themselves? Transhumanists. They seem to be at the center of this. People like Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab. These characters have got this idea of reducing the population. I mean, it looks like they've been quite successful. They're going to be successful. It's time to tell. It's time to tell. But yeah, I don't really know. I mean, like the Illuminati and that, when people talk about that, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one when people touch on that subject, because I actually look at who's really involved, like the Les Wexners and all that. Those type of people who control. They're the type of people who controlled Jeffrey Epstein. They're the puppeteers. Jeffrey Epstein was just a puppet. Why aren't we going after Les Wexner? You know what I mean? But it seems to be a conglomeration of groups of people. Not just one is sort of entirely controlling it.
What's fascinating to me is that you have these experiences with other entities and other life forms, but then don't take too much about them being reptilians, or them because a lot of people that especially have experiences that have thoughts and beliefs of aliens and all these things, believe it's the reptilians that's controlling them, it's the Dracos, it's that they're firmly believing that it's these other entities that are controlling the humans.
I've really got, the only thing I can say, I still give them the benefit of the doubt. Right? But how many different stories can I take in? How many possibilities are there? It's just endless. I mean, I get all these because, again, the answers are endless. The reptilians, they're Nordic, they're just humans and they're evil. They're in league with them. It goes on and on and on. So it gets confusing, and people go on about Another thing that confuses me is people going on about the Council of Five, the Council of Nine, or the Council of 12. Like whatever. It's like we're in some sort of like Lord of the Rings a book or something. I don't know, maybe, but the entities. Yeah, it's a tricky one. But I do know greys exist. I do know these tall beings exist because I've seen them. I haven't seen the mantid beings, but they seem to exist because they're quite common, and Nordics as well, or the Pleiadians, whatever you want to call them. They seem quite common, and also reptilians seem to be common, but they're mostly the greys. So I'm convinced, yeah, they're running around doing stuff, but I don't know how much they're interfering with us exactly.
Yeah, I like to, no matter what people's experiences are, whether it's with demons or aliens or whatever it is, I like to, have people think about the people that are doing this to us have addresses and phone numbers. They're real people that are pulling these strings. Whether there's entities pulling their strings, it doesn't really matter, because in order for us to take our control of our lives, to stop this insane asylum, to break the matrix or whatever you want to call it, there's people that are doing this to us, and they're the ones who we should focus on. Stopping them from having power over us is, I think, where we can finally gain our freedom back.
Well, I mostly see, and this is a perception I still hold. I still believe these beings, these entities, are leaving us alone largely to our own self-determination, and that's what I've seen. They're basically they're saying, "Hey, we're here," but they're observing. But I have not really seen much evidence. I mean, I do believe there is some sort of shadow government, which the government doesn't know too much about themselves. And I say that in regards to when I was taken that time and was in like an aircraft hangar. I believe I was taken to an Australian Army training base, which was basically 10 minutes where I lived. So there is some sort of like involvement going on, but I really don't know how much role they have in influencing the population. Are they leaving us to our self-determination? It seems so.
Yeah, and you say that sometimes it seems like the government, people that are elected officials and all that, they don't know about the shadow government, but maybe they do. Maybe that's the role that they're playing. Maybe they've been, Jeffrey Epstein, put into situations, compromising situations. It tends that people who do rise up to power, or people that do rise up to fame, or people that do rise up to massive amounts of wealth, are hard to be controlled. So they have to put their hooks into them one way or another. And that's makes the difference between most people. The ones that have the money, power, fame, those are the ones that they have to keep a tight lid on. Otherwise, they get suicided, or otherwise they get blackmailed or things like that. So, I've heard of people that have gotten elected, and then all of a sudden comes in a bunch of guys with some briefcases, and they tell them what is going on, what they need to do, what they need to say. So, and a lot of them, for fear of their family safety, fear of their own lives, they just play along, and they just go along with what the script is. So I think a lot of that is happening as well.
Yeah, I've heard that. I think it happened to Jesse Ventura. I heard that happened to him, or something similar. I've heard that story a few times. It does make sense. I mean, if you got like prime ministers like our prime minister covering up, pedos in pedo politicians, things like that wouldn't surprise me. Someone who's, because if you're a chill bloke, get into office, no crime in that, and then someone comes up and says, "If you don't do this, we're going to kill you." Bad things are going to happen to your children. It's like, yeah, it's unfortunate, but I'm not too sure if it has anything to do with non-human intelligence. I think it's more, me personally, I think it's more just just sick people in power. But I'm still happy to give people the benefit of the doubt if they've got the other side of the opinion.
Do you think, like, what's your thoughts on what's going to happen in the next few years? Do you think that, these people now, with them controlling under the rule of secrecy, now things are being exposed, people are starting to become aware, some of their plans didn't, come out to fruition. Are you optimistic about the next few years, or do you feel like things are going to get maybe a lot worse before they end up getting better?
I think they're definitely going to get a lot worse. I see. Something else I didn't mention about that time in 2003 with the beings, they said something was going to happen in 20 years, which is this year. Okay, all right. And I've said this for years. If something's going to happen in 2023 or 20 years, because they said in 20 years, give or take, something's going to happen. And this is really like, okay, this year's a very interesting year, isn't it? Forgot the birth of AI, really. I mean, it just sort of stuck its head out, said, hey, I'm here. So I find that particularly interesting. But in regards to going worse, it's going to get worse because a lot of these politicians appear to have a lot to hide, and it looks like they'll take us to a nuclear war for them to hide, hide their crimes, their child trafficking, their money laundering, So it's going to get worse. Yeah, they're just covering their tracks by destroying the world.
With the emergence of the AI that, like you talked about, is that something that you are fascinated by to explore? Is that something that you're staying away from? Are you getting on the AI bandwagon? Like, how do you personally feel about, how artificial intelligence has just come out of nowhere and seems like to be, around everywhere now?
I'm not sort of taking too much interest in it because you already know its potential anyway. Basically, the end goal is just me sort of laying down on a couch, watching a big screen while I have a robot feeding me grapes all day. And that's my life, all right. But I think that's for me. That's the biggest worry is apathy. We're going to just sort of we're going to become sort of more. I think there's a big change. I don't know what's going to happen personally. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, we're in for the ride now, but it's a difficult one. So in regards like theories and that, we talk about experiences, how some of them claim that basically the aliens AI was built, millions of years ago by these beings' ancestors, which now they sort of run into they're now in some sort of symbiotic relationship with this AI, or this some sort of super AI, and it looks like maybe we're headed that same direction. But yeah, at the moment I'm sort of like more like the outdoors and that. I'm studying a language at the moment. So I don't want to get too involved in any AI at the moment because really we know its potential anyway, what it's going to do. Just think of anything and yet that's what will happen.
What's your thoughts on cryptocurrencies? Some people believe that cryptocurrencies can potentially free people from the slavery from the banking cartels. Other people believe that the digital currency is the final step into, total tyranny, total slavery. What's your own personal thoughts on crypto?
I've dabbled in it with for a little while. I just wanted to sort of just get to understand it in regards to in crypto. I mean, it doesn't really have any sort of intrinsic really properties other than things like if you really, I always believe if you really want to invest in something, buy precious metals, buy gold. People playing the system with crypto is really playing a game. There's really there's sort of no honor to it, just trying to game the system. But I believe there is some beauty to it as well. things like some cryptos like Cardano. I like Cardano because I like the idea behind it. There's a very liberating effect to it, or liberating aspect to it. But yeah, I think crypto's probably going to go down the tube in the short, in the near future. I think it's because of quantum mechanics and not quantum computers. They might be able to just instantaneously destroy everybody's crypto account within minutes. So apparently that's the case. So we might have to go back to the old bartering using gold, gold coins, and who knows.
Well, that's with this EMP blast that they could take out the whole electrical grid. I don't know if you know what electromagnetic pulse they've been talking about. If people have all their money or all their stuff in crypto, it could be wiped away, like you said, at any time.
Carrington effect.
And
Carrington effect.
they've been talking about, okay, so gold and silver is one of these metals that have gone up in value throughout history, right? It's kind of,
It's never gone up. It's always stayed. Gold has always stayed the same price. It really hasn't really changed. What has actually changed is America's dollars hyperinflating. It's overprinting of American dollars, which gives the illusion it's going up. So it's not actually really going up. So yeah.
But one thing that Boyd Anderson guy that I was telling you about before, the 5 fastest goals in the hockey history brought into the Illuminati world and all that, he said that they were talking about, devaluing gold and silver as well. And it's fascinating that most people out there for the last at least 3 years, 5 years saying, make sure you buy lots of gold, lots of silver. A lot of the people that are awake and aware, investing into the metals, into gold and silver, wouldn't that be a big kick in the face if they turned and, devalued it and all of a sudden gold and silver became, worth very little? Would be, quite a kick in the face.
It'd be very difficult to do something like that. They'll have to flood the market with gold. So they'll have to get rid of their gold to do something like this. I mean, it's a highly sought after metal. But again, when you take a look, when you read between the lines in regards to the gold standard, it's really not just gold and silver. It could be storable food, for instance. Buy storable food. So food that will last 10 years. You can put on the shelf last 10 years. That's worth something. So it's not just gold. It's read between the lines in regards to the gold standard. It could be anything that's of value that someone would want to buy.
Well, Diane says here, ground question, what will we barter with when the internet is also taken down, and how will we barter? But I know that people were talking about what's one of the biggest things that people kind of need in the ups and the down times is alcohol and drugs. And I don't I don't drink anymore. I stopped drinking, 9 years ago, 8.5 years ago, I stopped all synthetic drugs. 8 years ago, I stopped cigarettes. But, having some bottles of alcohol or having some of these things just in case, things you can't buy, people would trade you things, gold for a bottle of booze, or they would trade you, food for, some of these other things if they, run out of these, kind of for them necessities themselves.
Yeah, well, again, like as I say, storable food. You got something that lasts for a couple of years. You got something to barter with. I need a roll of it. I need some aluminium foil. Maybe I need a pot. I'll trade you this for this. That may happen, but again, I'm in rural, which is good. So if a hard times hit, move to rural ASAP, because you just drive down the road and there's always tables that farmers put out, and they've got an honor system where they put all these fruit and vegetables down, and they say $2 for a pumpkin. So put $2 in their cup and just take the pumpkin. It's great here. and it might be able to do something equivalent. People will, think other things as salt. Salt is a good. You can trade with salt, which people used to trade with. People used to trade with sugar. People used to trade with rum. In Australia, that was seen as a currency, trading with rum. So why not? And also we have something. Probably the most important thing is we have our labour. So we have our labour plus. When you take a look at it, you don't really need to have money. We just have to sort of base our currency on labour, and this amount of labour is now this worth of, say tokens, etc. And you can trade by there.
So we're coming around to the end of our interview here today. Is there anything that you wanted to share with us that you maybe haven't got a chance to share yet?
No, but again, I just want to sort of express people who have seen symbols, floating symbols, that sort of, especially the experience that I experienced, where my understanding what these symbols represented, they just represented stores of knowledge. And each time this symbol entered me, I sort of started gaining in knowledge. And but then, as I said, it was all taken away. But I just went, what the hell was that about? I'm also trying to get people to sort of break past that stigma, the stigma of coming out and saying, hey, I've seen aliens, and which is difficult because, there's a lot of ridicule in that regard. And I think it's time we should break through that stigma. And B, just say someone is lying, okay? And I do sometimes pick up some people BSing about, their experience in that, but so what? Okay, good on you. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt no matter what. Unless it gets too weird, but yeah. So if someone can reach out to me, who've had experience with greys, had an intense download, please reach out.
How can they contact you if they wanted to share their story with you?
You can probably the best way is probably emailing me at leslie@heldzingen.com. I don't know if we could put that under.
Okay, Leslie.
Yeah, at heldzingen.com, my last name.com.
And how can you spell that?
HELD.
HEL D.
D. No, D.
Yeah, D.
D. ZINGEN.
ZINGEN. Yeah.
Yep. So leslie@heldzingen.com. And so just send me a message. Happy to reach out, talk to you, call you up, have a chat.
Like this?
Yeah.
Is that the right email address?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, perfect.
Spot on. So again, reach out, and you've got an ear to listen to. I won't mock you or think you're crazy. Yeah.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming here, sharing your experiences, sharing your story. Some people earlier on was saying that you sound very, very credible in your story and your the stuff that you were telling us. So you're very believable. So it seems like that to me. You don't sound like you're trying to pull the wool over anyone, and these experiences you've actually experienced it yourself.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, I try to keep it as simple as possible, and just what I've seen without interpretation, and that's all I can do.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope you get the answers that you're seeking. I hope you're able to connect with more people that have had experiences. For anybody that's listening to this, we're live right now on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, Twitter, and Rumble. We're also going to be, if you're listening this on a replay, on Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, and even Dollar Vigilante TV. This is Leslie's email address. You can reach out to him And I'm sure if you just want to say hi and just say, hey, I saw you on the missing link, and and just whatever questions you may have, I'm sure you'd appreciate any questions that may come from this interview.
Yeah, sure, that would be great.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks again. Thank you, everybody, for all your likes, comments, hearts, shares, and stars. We appreciate all of your love and support. Next week on The Missing Link, we do have another, I think, 5 interviews. On Monday, we've got John Hewlett. On Tuesday, we got Dr. Judy Mikovits. She's coming back, I think, for like the 4th or the 5th time. Then we've got Brian Tate, who is a targeted individual, who's going to come back for the 2nd time and share his story. Then we've got a nurse, Svetlana Dalalana. She's been traveling around. She had a doctor husband and, wouldn't take the, injection, and they ended up splitting up. And then she's been, looking to help people with, nursing and things ever since. So she's coming back for the 2nd time. And then on Friday, we've got Dennis Stone. So that's the upcoming next week on The Missing Link. Thanks again, everybody. May the source be with you in all that you do. And same for you there, Les. May the source be with you. And we'll see you, I guess, next time we see you back on The Missing Link. I'm your host, Jesse Howell. Please leave comments on what you thought of this interview. And we'll see you next time we see you. Thanks a lot, Leslie.
Thanks, Jesse. Appreciate it.
Okay, bye now.